Greetings, my friends. It's Rush Limbaugh. It's the real voice of America here. The real voice of liberty. Not just a one-man band for the truth, like some people say, but an entire symphony orchestra for liberty. And we are here behind the golden EIB microphone. Another excursion into broadcast excellence. 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. Just a little bit hoarse here today, folks. But I will muddle through. And with our expert audio processing, you might not even notice it. You might, but you might not. Now, do you all remember? You probably will, and you should, because I've mentioned this countless times. Going back to the campaign last year, leading up to the election, which was in November. How many of you remember my issuing a warning that the next 2 years of the Obama administration are going to be unlike anything anybody imagines? That you haven't seen anything yet. And I tied it to Obama alone. He will do what he's going to do regardless. But when the Republicans announced that impeachment was off the table and that any constitutional mechanism at their disposal to stop him would not be used, Katie barred the door. I've said it over and over again. I've repeated it I don't know how many times. I have not offered specific examples because my mind doesn't work that way. I don't conjure up ways of denying people freedom. I don't sit around and examine what people do that I don't like and try to figure out ways to get them to stop it, unless we're talking about lawbreakers, of course. But I'm a freedom, liberty, live and let live kind of guy. I might not approve of or like what some people do, but have at it. And by the same token, I am not the kind of person that wants to enforce my wants, likes, desires on everybody else. I have no desire that everybody like what I like. I have no desire everybody say what I want to hear said. I have no idea that everybody stop everything they're doing and listen to what I have to say. I have no desire that everybody agree. No, that's not true. I do wish everybody agreed. But I'm not going to sit around and force that on people. But people like Barack Obama are just the exact opposite. And people like Barack Obama and many of his minions in his administration throughout the Democrat Party today, in academia, it's all about enforcing the way they think everybody ought to be on everybody. And it has started. President Barack Obama is using executive actions now to impose gun control on the nation. And here is how. This is from Paul Bedard, the Washington Examiner. President Barack Obama is going to ban bullets used in the top-selling rifle in America, the AR-15. It's a semi-automatic. He is going to ban one of the most used AR bullets by sportsmen and target shooters. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives this month revealed that it is putting the ban on 5.56 millimeter ammo on a fast track, immediately driving up the price of the bullets and prompting retailers, including huge outdoors company Cabela's, to urge sportsmen to urge Congress to stop the president. Now, as the day began, here were the things that were occupying the media and therefore occupying everybody's attention. These are the things that are the focus of the news today. The FCC and its vote today on net neutrality. There is a plethora of stories today about the upcoming Supreme Court case and Obamacare, about which we will have some very interesting detail for you. The ongoing story of immigration. By the way, the latest news on immigration is that the regime is now banning the use of the term illegal immigrant. And they are now to be called Americans in Waiting. You hadn't heard that? Snerdley's face popped up like he hadn't heard. I have it right here. I'm holding it in my formerly nicotine-stained fingers. In the Washington Times, the White House is now using the term Americans in waiting to describe the thousands of illegal immigrants waiting for green cards, quote, as a result of our broken immigration system, unquote. Of course, our immigration system isn't broken. The enforcement of our immigration system is broken. The president, the Democrat Party, and several in the Republican Party are trying to break the immigration system. The system itself is not broken. It's just fine. It's just being ignored. The White House used this new phrase, Americans in waiting, earlier this week in an update on Obama's executive amnesty actions titled, Taking Action to Unlock the Economic Contributions of Americans in Waiting. That is how Obama is characterizing executive action that grants amnesty to, I think, 4.5 million Americans. He did a town hall on MSNBC last night. And I haven't had a chance to go through the entire soundbite roster, so I don't know what I've got there. I'm going to have to do this at the break, see what I've got. It was on MSNBC, and I lifted the ban temporarily since the subject matter was Obama and not those lame brain hosts they have on that network. And I think he was asked, not sure, I think he was asked, why only 4.5 million? Why don't you grant amnesty for all of them? And he gets some convoluted answer to it. But it is a good question. If you're going to grant amnesty to 4.5 million, why not 5? Why not 10? Why not 11? Why not all 20? And it's a good question. It's a matter of what he thinks he can get away with to start. Anyway, the White House is now changing the terms. Illegal immigrants are now called Americans in waiting. And that comes in the title of the executive action that Obama is going to take, taking action to unlock the economic contributions of Americans in waiting. And you know who that's aimed at? Good old low-information voters out there who get their news from HBO, who get their news from E! Entertainment Network, get their news from TMZ, who get their news from Yahoo. So you call it taking action to unlock the economic contribution. We need economic contributions, right? We need economic growth. Taking action to unlock the economic contributions of Americans in waiting. Who could possibly oppose that? Except those evil, mean Republicans who oppose everything that's good. That's how this is designed. This is how it's set up. So when everybody's looking at that, and everybody's looking at the FCC vote today on net neutrality, which is no such thing. And the Supreme Court case, as I said, on Obamacare, and not to mention ISIS. We now know who Islamic John is. And he's a well-to-do Brit. Somebody needs to tell Obama and Marie Harf. His name's Mohammed something or other. He's a well-to-do Brit. He's not poor. He's not unemployed. We found out who he is. And now there's another subject that has, shall we say, floated up as part of the flotsam, and that is Hillary Clinton and foreign money. And I find it very fascinating, ladies and gentlemen, that it's the Washington Post and left-wing news organizations that are raising these ethical questions about Mrs. Clinton and money, i.e., massive, huge donations to the Clinton Foundation. It's called the Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea Foundation, by the way. You know why they call it the Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea Foundation? To make it look like they're your neighbors. Yeah, I gave to the Bill and Hillary and Chelsea Foundation. Not the Clinton Foundation, not the this or that, not the Bimbo Eruptions Foundation, but the Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea Foundation. But it's the left, not just the left, but there are places like the Washington Post beginning to question whether or not she's going to have some ethical problems down the road in a future campaign, given that she sold all those bribes. Excuse me. That she solicited all that money donated to her and her husband's foundation while she was Secretary of State. So those are the 5 big things out there, and then sneaking up on us As promised, President Obama is using executive actions to impose gun control on America. The first target, the top-selling rifle in the country, the AR-15 style semi-automatic with a ban on one of the most used AR bullets by sportsmen and target shooters. I remember all of these years during the debate on gun control. I would find myself at a fashionable Fifth Avenue, New York City dinner party with elite rhinos as the hosts and hostess. And they would come up to me almost in a berating way and demand that I explain why I could be so opposed to something so civilized as gun control. And I would say, well, you know, right across the street there is Central Park. Now, if you can promise me that your gun control is going to take the guns out of the criminals' hands who are over in the park, then you may be able to interest me. But all you're going to do is take guns away from law-abiding people who do not use them to commit crimes in the first place. How can you not see this? But see, gun control and the specifics of it, like so many, like immigration, it's not really about the substance. When it comes to rhino Republicans supporting it, it is about appearing sophisticated. It's about appearing superiorly educated. And it's about qualifying for admittance in the club of elites. So you have to be for gun control, whether you understand it or not. You have to be for raising the minimum wage, even if you understand it or not. And you have to be pro-choice. Otherwise, you can't possibly be sophisticated. And you'll never be invited to the right parties, cocktail or otherwise, in Manhattan or Washington or L.A. or San Francisco or what have you. When it comes to understanding the nuts and bolts and the details of any policy, the elites haven't the slightest idea. And I'm sure you've done this too. In every gun control debate, somebody, some smart aleck, will pop up and say the truth. Hey, the gun's not killing anybody. The person pulling the triggers who's killing somebody. And then somebody will say, you know, if you people were really serious, you'd ban bullets. A gun's worthless without bullets. And here we are. Here we are. Isn't it much easier to ban the production, the manufacture, and the sale of bullets than guns? I mean, here's Obama. Hey, I'm not going after your gun. Not me. I believe in the Second Amendment. But I read the Second Amendment. I don't see anything in there about ammo. It says you can have all the guns you want, but it doesn't say that about ammo. So there we go, folks. It started. It has started, and I don't want to sit here and do a but I just knew these next 2 years, Republicans in Washington, nobody's slightest idea. I had a email back and forth with Brent Bozell today. He's going to make a speech. His CPAC speech is tomorrow, and he was giving me a little preview of what he's going to say. And part of it is that he doesn't think enough conservatives, even now, actually understand who the opposition is. They're not McGovern Democrats. They're not your dad's Democrat Party or your grandfather's. It's a bunch of fascists out there and a bunch of Stalinists. And all the young conservatives and I haven't the slightest idea. They think it's just a standard, ordinary disagreement period, left and right, conservative, liberal. And you go on Fox and you articulate your conservative point of view, and that constitutes doing battle. And it doesn't. Going on television and appearing smart about your beliefs doesn't mean anything when it comes to actually defeating these people. That takes a whole nother commitment and level of involvement. And that's going to be the focus of his speech. And I wrote back and I said, I think I agree with you totally. I don't think a lot of people on our side, even now after 6 years of Obama, I don't think Mitch McConnell clearly doesn't get it. I don't think the elected Republicans, I don't think the Republican establishment has the slightest idea. Jeb Bush doesn't get it. These people do not understand what we're up against, and they never will. They're not going to see it the way we do. So when you come along and you say, you know, you take impeachment off the table, and you're telling this guy whatever he does, you're not going to stop him because of whatever reason. You're not going to stop him because you don't be called a racist. You're not going to stop him because it'll irritate the independents if you criticize whatever convoluted, sissy-fried excuses you can give me for not stopping him. What do you think he's going to do? He's got 2 years left to transform this country. And he feels totally at home, acting like a king. These are going to be the 2 happiest years of his presidency. These next 2 years, it's Katie bar the door. You can't even imagine the kind of stuff that's going to come down the pike. And nobody's going to stop him. The Republicans have said it ain't going to happen. There are constitutional mechanisms, but they're not going to be used. Oh, he can't wait these next 2 years. Folks, this is every liberal Democrat, every socialist's best dream. These next 2 years, whatever they want to do, they're just going to do it by dictate. Executive action, executive order, what have you. Got 2 years left to fix this country. 2 years left to correct all the mistakes made from the days of our founding. 2 years left to get guns out of everybody's hands. 2 years left to take the guns and stuff away from the bitter clingers. And let your imagination run wild. We're just in the second month of what will be the next 24 months. This is just month 2. And look at what's happening already. As I say, he's taking control of the internet today with the FCC vote without constitutional authority to do so. And this is it'll be tied up in court. There'll obviously be people hurt by this who will go to court and sue. Might result in some new telecommunications law. Could have being positive in certain ways, but still, the power grab is what to notice here. Supreme Court and Obamacare, that's over the subsidies. Executive action, immigration, don't think he's going to stop at 5 million. He's going to do it all. Islamic terrorism, Iran's going to get the nuke. And Hillary Clinton for money, and now banning bullets to the AR-15. You remember, I certainly do. You remember when a number of people, some years back, began hoarding bullets. Gun owners and gun rights groups began hoarding ammunition and suggesting that people hoard ammunition because they said Obama and the Democrat Party were going to make a move to ban it at some point. And remember how every drive-by news organization laughed at them and mocked them and made fun of them as paranoid, racist, right-wing kooks? I do. I remember all of that, and now here we are. If you are just tuning in, President Obama is issuing executive actions to impose gun control on the nation by banning bullets to the AR-15 semi-automatic rifle, one of the most used AR bullets by sportsmen and target shooters. And don't think, well, they're not banning all bullets, Rush. See, this is where you lose it. If you say, well, it's not every bullet, Rush, it's the first. It's the beginning. You don't think all bullets, except those held by the military and the cops, are the objective? This is how we end up losing these. Well, that's just one bullet, Rush. Come on, it's not worth having an attack over. And this is how things just slowly trickle away. Spring of 2013 was when the hoarding of ammo began and the left started mocking those who did it. Meeting and surpassing all audience expectations every day, Rush Limbaugh behind the one and only Golden EIB microphone. Now, the hoarding of ammunition actually was begun by the government. And that is what triggered and even panicked ordinary, everyday citizens. The government, ATF, and a number of agencies began hoarding ammunition. That triggered some people to start hoarding ammo themselves. The thought was, look, the government's trying to corner the market on this stuff. The government's trying to buy it all, so there isn't any for us. And when people started leveling that allegation, here came, right on cue, the New York Times and the Washington Post, and you name it, every other liberal news organization to proclaim them kooks and hayseeds and paranoids tin hats, all of this stuff, tinfoil hats, just impugning these people left and right. How do you dare think? We're preparing. We have to have a certain stock of ammunition for our agencies to be able to defend America. Blah, 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 blah. And yet they were buying ammunition they didn't need. They were buying more ammo than they ever had. And that sent red flags up all over the country. And people started hoarding ammunition themselves. It was that and the endless attempts to use shooting tragedies to push for even more gun control laws that made people run out and start thinking something's up here. We got a guy who openly, people on the right who get this guy get it. They understand that he means what he says. He wants to take guns out of everybody's hands, and if he can't do that, he's going to take the bullets that go in the guns out of everybody's hands, and he's just begun that process today. April 4th, 2013, Associated Press. Gun control fears send ammo flying off the shelves. Gun enthusiasts fearful of new weapon controls and alarmed by rumors of government hoarding are buying bullets practically by the bushel, making it hard for stores nationwide to keep their shelves stocked and even putting a pinch on some local law enforcement departments. I don't know if you remember it with those refreshers, but I clearly do because I don't forget this stuff. So here we go, folks. And remember, we're just into the second month of the next 24. And I know that there's some people out there, many of you probably in this audience, who are not surprised. You thought this day was coming. And you're probably very, very frustrated. You've tried to warn people. And you probably were laughed at when you said, this guy he's going to executive action guns. He's going to executive order guns, ammo, or whatever. And I'm sure your friends, who also probably think Sarah Palin's an idiot, thought you were an idiot. Probably thought you were getting a little paranoid. Come on, Rush, the government's not, they can't. The Second Amendment, they're just talking. They're not going to, and here it is. They're doing it. So I imagine many of you in this audience are not surprised. But on the other hand, do not forget that there are millions of Americans, when they hear about this, are going to be loudly applauding it. You know how many doomkoffs there are out there who think that it is the gun that is the problem in our culture. And you know how many people believe in this gun control business because whatever reasons they support it, it's going to be applauded. And it's going to be applauded in the drive-by media.